What is volunteering? Within the philosophy of Erasmus Plus Youth in Action, volunteering is very important as a way to learn and contribute to personal development, as well as to the society we live in. Volunteering is considered an altruistic activity and is intended to promote participation and solidarity and improve quality of life. In return, this activity can produce a feeling of self-worth and respect. There is no financial gain involved for the individual. Volunteering is also associated with skills development, socialization and fun. Volunteering may have positive benefits for the volunteer as well as for the person or community being served. It is also a way of making contacts for possible future employment. It is helping, assisting or serving another person or persons without pay. European Voluntary Service allows a young person residing legally in one of the member or partner countries who is between 17 and 30 years old to become a volunteer in another country for a specified period of between 2 and 12 months. The voluntary activities can be in various fields, such as the environment, arts and culture, activities with children, young people or the elderly, heritage or sports and leisure. The project has to take place in a country other than where the volunteer lives. It should be non-profit making and unpaid. Each EVS project involves a partnership between a volunteer, a sending organisation, and the host organisation. One of the countries involved in a project must be an EU member state or an accession country. It is possible to do EVS in all 28 European Union member states and partner countries. It might also be possible to go outside of these countries, but this involves a different procedure which you would need to contact your national agency about. European Voluntary Service is based on the following main principles. 1. Promoting active citizenship. 2. Developing the ability to interact with people of different languages and cultures. 3. Spreading tolerance among young people of the European Union. 4. Supporting the development of local communities. 5. Increasing your own skills through the practical experience of volunteering abroad. 6. Encouraging the learning of another language.
Romania is in a good way.
I think economic situation in Romania it's on a very low state in this moment.
Yes, I don't believe in my stereotypes anymore.
In this moment I think Romania is in the worst case scenario, economical and political. That protest for our political system meant zero, absolutely zero.
I mean, I think it was a big movement.
For me as a Romanian, it was amazing standing there and singing the national anthem. All together, 500,000 people was impressive. And this is the worst part about Romania. Many of the people who were there didn't know what they supported.
I think to start the changes, it's not enough to go on the streets and destroy something or shout.
I think the change should start at us, at normal people, not at government.
Actually, it's the whole system which you have to change.
Our generation will change this.
Hello, I'm George Durbălău and I'm about to present and moderate the first podcast in a series that covers the protests that took place in Romania in the beginning of 2017. But let's draw first a little context. I was approached by Do Great Things Association in Bucharest, Romania, to create this series as a part of an Erasmus Plus exchange voluntary service, aka EVS, for the young volunteers selected for this 10 months adventure. Andrei, a friend of mine, told me in short about his project. We had some time to get to know each other and I had the pleasure of offering a fast course on podcasting. There were 4 young fellows that took interest and indulged me during more than 1 month while we have talked about radio and its future, podcasting. We chose this social political subject, although a bit too serious maybe for EVS, because we all agreed that the scale and importance of the event was unavoidable. And also because all of the volunteers took active part in the protests, going out in the streets and, feeling the spirit of the #resist protest that took place in February 2017. So we have decided that in this way we will combine journalistic and technical skills with finding out more and documenting on the subject of the social unrest that got more than 500,000 out in rough cold and protest against corruption at the highest levels of Romanian government.
Large-scale protests turned violent in Romania as hundreds of thousands demonstrate against legislation that critics say will promote government corruption. The Guardian says the Wednesday, February 1st protests were the largest since the fall of communism in Romania in 1989. An estimated 300,000 people gathered in 50 towns and cities across the country. A small group of protesters clashed with police in Bucharest.
For the last few days, hundreds of thousands of people have been coming onto the streets.
Clashes erupted in Romania as people took to the streets of Bucharest to protest against a government decree. The government wants to decriminalise the theft of public funds less than $47,000.
Romania's largest protest since 1989, touched off by a law that would let government officials get away with stealing. Is this just a local political crisis, or does it have broader implications for the country and its place in Europe?
Those political leaders here who are perceived as acting immorally, in their own self-interest, underhand, these politicians can expect to be held to account by the people. This government U-turn would never have happened without pressure from the streets, without the hundreds of thousands of Romanians outraged by what they saw as an immoral government decree. In other words, people power was key here. Secondly, we've learnt that this may not be the end of the story, because to many of the protesters here, the government's cancellation of its controversial decree doesn't go far enough now. They're demanding the resignation of the entire cabinet. And finally, and rather ironically from a story about a government accused of backtracking on the fight against corruption, events here have shown just how much effort Romania has been putting in the last couple of years to countering abuse of office by public servants. The DNA, the agency responsible here for fighting corruption, has been very active in trying to clean up the country.
One of the four attendees is Vlad. Vlad Vydra is from Belarus. But wait, let me read his own presentation that he wrote for DGT Association. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm going to read the exact text of the presentation he wrote, so yes, some grammar errors included. This is the way he writes, so I will not change a comma. Alright, here we go. Even though Vlad sounds as the Romanian name, I am Vlad from Belarus and the full version of my name is Vladislav. Belarus, not Belarusia, mind you, has a beautiful city called Hrodno, where I spent my childhood. 7 years ago I left my country to study in Poland, mechanical engineering on Poznan University of Technology, as I have always dreamed about building the cars. During my studies, it appeared that it is not enough for me, so I have started next studies. Internet of Things. In the beginning of July, my graduation date was coming closer and closer, and I realized that soon I will be one of the millions of people spending 8 hours in front of the computer in one of the thousands the same offices. Then I have started to look for another opportunity, for one more adventure in my life, for something which will stop the process of growing up and taking credit. That's how I became EVS volunteer. Before, I have never been in Romania and I didn't even think about Bucharest. So, let's start an adventure.
Let's go on an adventure. Just pretend and you will see. Let's go on an adventure. One just for you and me.
Now, you might wonder at this point, why is my voice you're listening to and not Vlad's? Well, it is quite simple. The way we did things was like this. The timeline consisted first of all in explaining the theory and the scope, the ethics and the techniques behind podcasting. After that, the next natural step was setting the subject, the scripts and the interviews. Lastly, we were recording narrative voices from all volunteers. After that came the technical part, the editing. With Vlad, all went well until he had some full days dealing with visa issues that he needed to take care before he was supposed to leave Romania. So he did run his interviews but did not get a chance to record his own voice. Hence, you have mine. Now, you could just stretch your imagination a little bit and just imagine I am Vlad. So, yep, call me Vlad for the next minutes, would you?
Vladislav is just like this older vampire who grew up in the medieval times, and, you know, to be living this long and to have seen the things that he's seen and still, like, kind of have it together. I mean, hats off to him.
Bloody hell!
So Vlad, me meaning remember, has decided to approach his podcast from one important perspective. And as a Romanian, I can say that he's touching a sensible subject. The export of talents, the immigration, meaning young people, Romanians, fleeing the country in search for a better future, better career, better life. It is a documented fact not only for Romania, but with the European Union admission, a lot of natives from many developing countries chose to go towards West, searching for a change.
Мой пиар-менеджер Карл Маркс. В левой руке сникерс, в правой руке Марс. Мой пиар-менеджер Карл Маркс. Капитал. 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 Беларусь. Freedom, Беларусь. Freedom, Беларусь, Libertad, Беларусь. Freedom, Беларусь. Freedom, Беларусь. Freedom, Беларусь, Libertad.
Vlad wanted to use this band in the first part for a particular reason. Lapis Trubetskoy is a rock band from Belarus, a very famous one, that fills stadiums, and this band is forbidden in the moment in Belarus. It sings mostly outside the country and has an enormous fan base. They sing about social and political issues and are the embodiment of art against establishment. Vlad is a young man that chose to leave his country, and this band sings about what he has fled away from. So yes, Vlad also knows a thing or two about leaving your country. Vlad chose 2 interviewees for his podcast, and he chose them wisely because they actually showed different opinions, different points of view of people of similar age and experience that are choosing different things for their future. One is a young woman, university graduate from Poland, and the other is a Romanian almost graduated young man from Bucharest. Katarzyna, or Kasia as friends call her, is her second time in Romania, and Cosmin, the Romanian guy, has left the country on more than one occasion, both with volunteering experience. So I consider them open, strongly opinionated persons that responded with colliding views on some issues and quite similar in others.
Yes, you like potato, and I like potato. You like tomato, I like tomato. Potato, potato, tomato, tomato. Let's call the whole thing off.
Kasia is a close friend of Vlad. He did his trial interview with her, trial meaning the very first interview that allowed me to assess the volunteers' inquisitive skills. And I had proposed then to have her as a guest in his podcast. She is a good English speaker and she is relevant for this subject for two reasons. First, she is the second time in Romania.
First time I came here with a lot of stereotypes in my head. It was 2014.
And secondly, she has been actually working in a corporation in Bucharest for more than 6 months now. She got to know Romania relatively well, working with Romanian colleagues and paying rent quite near the city center. She has decided to move, at least for a while, from Poland to Romania.
Romania is home to some of Europe's rarest and most vibrant wildflowers. Each spring, they blanket the lush meadows and mountains of the Carpathians, brushing grassy slopes and valleys into a delicate collage of colour. Take a walk through the magical Apusen Hills, where alpine pastures sprout an ocean of daffodils, or pick your way amongst clumps of rare and vivid orchids in the Piatra Craiului National Park. This magical world changes with every season, but remains through them all a place of wonder and enchanting beauty. Romania, let your senses bloom.
Vlad met Cosmin during one of the DGT Association's activities and had a chance to share some ideas. Then, not long after that, when asked to think about someone that would fit the subject, he was a rather clear choice. Cosmin has strong opinions about his country, he's a moderate nationalist, and took the protest very seriously.
I was born in 1996 in Curtea de Argeș. It's my hometown. I lived there for 18 years till I arrived here to university in Bucharest. Yes, I study electrical engineering. I'm in the second year of electrical engineering. I have 4 years to do with Erasmus. Next year I will go in Prague in Czech Republic, but I was abroad many times with Erasmus Plus projects.
Now, let's see, what do they think about the present situation in Romania?
I think Romania is in a good way, but they still need, like, let's say 5-10 years to get to the level when you can say they are good. And it's about all of the let's say economical point of view, also political point of view, but also educational. For example, for me this is crucial, like the educational system here. And in general it's not bad, but it could be better.
I think economic situation in Romania it's on a very low state in this moment. Since I was born and from the stories that my parents told me and everything, in this moment I think Romania it's in the worst case scenario, economical and political, because after the communist period Romanian people and Romanian mentality is still influenced by that communist period. If you take a Romanian in his free time, he won't do something useful for his country, for his family, for him. Communist period taught us to do something if we must do it. If somebody is pointing at us, you have to do this or you will be punished, you will do it. But if you want to do something from your purpose, your desire, you won't do it. Because we were raised like this, and this is the biggest problem.
So, Kasia chose Romania over Poland. But are there any differences, or maybe similarities?
Actually, the funny story is that I was complaining a lot about Polish political situation in work. So the people there, they came here and said, Kasia, you said that there is something wrong in Poland now, welcome in Romania, it's the same shit going on. And I was like surprised because I don't read newspapers, no news, nothing like this. So I started asking, and actually there are people who are pretty, I would say, interested in the situation of country, not like, I don't care that something happened. And they explained me everything step by step, and I went to Poland because I was curious. There's a big difference between protests in Poland and Romania, because in Poland we have them like every second week, the protest against something, like police is protesting, nurses are protesting, teachers are protesting, parents are protesting, so we have protests all the time in Warsaw. And here I think it was the big event. I mean, even police, the security service is not really surprised when it's protest in Poland. They are like standing indifferently observing, and here they use gas, and the police become really, I would say, aggressive. The protests in Poland are happening all the time. Doesn't matter what's the government, because nurses always want to earn more. They are closing some big industrial place, so people are coming to protest. Like there were also people working on farms protesting, mostly because of economical issues, I would say, in Poland. Economical reason mostly, but also let's say some basic human rights, like black protest. It happened this year when they tried to make a strict law about abortion, that people were just protesting, but not only in Poland, but around the world. Like Polish people were dressed black on the streets in protest against it. But usually it's about the money, it's about the economical things, and the actions the government is taking in the economical, let's say, laws or something like this.
What about taking part in the protests?
I was there in the protest. I didn't mention it, I think. I was there on the protest, and I was really surprised because I was before on the protest in Poland, and they were totally peaceful. I mean, people are singing, standing, and the police is like, okay, just don't do anything aggressive. And here they really reacted actively. I mean, not passive police standing and observing, but attacking with the gas. The protests were mostly during the night. It was me, and as I know, all of my friends from work were there also. They tried to attend almost every night. I don't know, I've heard the story that the kids were there, mothers with the kids and so on. I mean, I think it was the big movement.
Yes, I was to that protest, but that protest was a small amount of what we can do. Because that protest for our political system meant zero, absolutely zero. They just try to wait for us to calm down and continue their businesses. That's all. It was something special. For me as a Romanian, it was amazing standing there and singing the national anthem. Altogether, 500,000 people was impressive, but was like a flame, Mm-hmm. It burned for 3 days and then nothing changed.
Some sources, many may I add, say that Romania was split in two by the protests. The informed versus the manipulated, the elders versus the youngsters, the PSD voters and supporters versus the PSD haters. How did they perceive it actually?
Me, my sister, my parents and my young relatives, all of them are against PSD. But the elderly people, the oldest of them, that watch television like 10 hours per day, are with PSD because it's mass media influence. It's that stubborn that Romanians have. And it's my family, I try to talk with them like a normal talk, like I talk with you, but there's no point because they have something written in their minds and they will support that thing no matter what. What are they saying? They are saying like 5 arguments, the only 5 good things that PSD did. But there are 5 good things like raising the salaries, raising the pension and these kind of things. And there are like 20 bad things, but they don't see those bad things.
It's because of the corruption, the level of corruption is very high here, and the party wants to make free their friends so they can steal as much as it's possible. That's what they said.
After all, did the protests change anything? Can we evaluate the changes in any way? Who is in charge of change?
It's difficult to say. I mean, after 2 weeks, people stopped talking about this and no news about this anymore. I hope they will. I've heard there's a big problem with elections here, that nobody's coming for election. I think it's around the Europe, but in Romania it's also big, and maybe next time they will think about going to election. But also the people told me that there's nobody to vote for. I mean, doesn't matter which party is the one which is the governmental party now, because all of them are from the communistic period, all of them are the same. But there are some young activists in politics, but actually it's like the old communists sitting in the parliament. So I don't know. I think to start the changes, it's not enough to go on the streets and destroy something or shout. I think you have to start thinking about other educational system, and if not by government, implemented by government, I don't know, NGOs, some organizations, I don't know, somebody who will teach people what are the laws, rights, what they can do, what they cannot, how they can influence the government. Actually, it's the whole system which you have to change.
PSD wanted to change that law. Actually, they changed it. They never. That law has never been applied. Actually, because we were to that protest. But after the protest, another 2 or 3 laws, quite the same, with the same mentality, were applied, and people did nothing about it. I think the change should start at us, at normal people, not at government, because this is the main problem, the mentality. Like, if every person would do something not great, but will do something useful for country, for, I don't know, for the city that you live, for the community that you live, the good thinking will spread like a trend. Exactly here, this is the point in Romania. It's like a trend, and if normal people will start to do good things, the government will start to do good things too. The change should start with every person. Every generation thinks that they are the special one, that they will change something. But I think our generation, mainly because we are free to travel. We traveled a lot, and we saw in other countries the difference. We saw the mentality difference, and I think our generation will change this. Because we see something different in other countries, we change our minds, and this is the first step, as I say, to change the mentality. And after you change the mentality, it's easier to change something. But first of all, our generation has to come to that age when you have power to say something.
So, is Romania a place to stay and build a life, or how is it? It seems that for Kasia, the things are pretty stable at the moment, and she chose to continue living in Bucharest for an indefinite time. She's young, and this new experience is making her life more interesting. Cosmin, on the other hand, as a born and raised Romanian, has a different vision.
I want, especially for my family, because I know I am raised in a family when no one is abroad from my family, and it's hard. Like, especially from financial reasons, it's quite hard. Because here in Bucharest it's a different life. Here in Bucharest the salaries are bigger, the life is better, everything is better. But in smaller cities where I came from, it's quite hard. You work on a very small amount of money because you have to work, and you don't have any other opportunities. You can't say I quit this job and I'll go to search for a better one, because you don't have a better one. And this is the worst part. So yes, I want to go abroad to do a future for me and for my family. And honestly, I told you, my ideal dream is to come back and to try to do something for Romania, or not maybe for Romania, because Romania it's a big scale, but for my city, for my family, for my friends, to try to improve something from the smallest scale and maybe going to the bigger scale.
Dear listener, we have reached the end of this podcast. So, did the protests change anything? Did they make Romania a more civilized society? What is beyond of a doubt is the fact that the civil society is growing stronger and stronger, and corruption has more opponents now than 10 years ago, or maybe 20. I will leave you to draw your own conclusions. I believe that the truth is subjective in this matter. It has to do a lot with circumstances. Sometimes a small, very personal problem can influence a big decision, so we all do live in our own defined small universe. And that is why you can direct your own life by choosing the settings, the characters, and the plot. When it comes to a country, it matters most if every individual consciousness is ready to take an active part, sacrifice a small part of self for the greater good. Big words? No, just reality. I am George Durbălău. Thanks for listening. And if you ever wondered how Vlad sounds, here's a clip.
Can we start or? Can you say something about you, that where you born? Have you opportunity to live abroad? Can you say me what is your opinion about situation in Romania? I mean, economical. Okay, hope it will be happened. Okay, I finished.